Welcome all to our Future of Audio is Now presentation. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we work today. To all our Victorian and Melburnian partners and friends, our thoughts are with you and please stay safe. Our event today won't be all PowerPoint. Just give me 20 minutes. First, let's launch a quick poll. If you can tell us if you're a premium or freemium Spotify subscriber. If you're unsure, freemium means you're on the free subscriptions and get served ads. It's interesting to us to know how many of you engage with ads on our platform. Please feel free to submit questions for us today. We have a packed agenda, but we will do our best to address during our session. Now on to today's playlist. Today we'll cover off the future of audio is now. Inside the rise of audio, the digital audio landscape, and the opportunity for advertisers. Our focus, though, is a live discussion session with our Global Head of Sales, Lee Brown, and Leah Harris, our creative producer for podcasts, about growth and innovations. At Spotify, we spend a lot of time thinking about the future of audio. Now that people's lives and routines being turned upside down, we realize very quickly that the future of audio is happening right now. Before COVID-19, digital audio was already steadily climbing. Streaming audio has been on a steady climb globally since 2012. Audio is present in our lives more now than ever before. More ways to listen. Why? There's more to listen to. The rise of podcasts and the access to the world's recorded music on streaming audio platforms. More discovery and personalization, much like TV now. The listening experience is all about discovery and recommendations based on what you like to listen to. Discovery Weekly on Spotify, daily mixes, release radar, your daily podcast, etc. Product ubiquity. So we have covered the brief story about the rise of streaming audio. Then came a plot twist. The last few months and right now, in real time, we're experiencing an unprecedented spike in streaming activity. At the same time, brands and marketers are rethinking the efficiencies of their advertising efforts. Many have been quick to react and change their marketing plans and are leaning more heavily on digital. And with the effects of the global pandemic still ongoing, our industry is looking for ways to future-proof their marketing efforts. On the audio side, this sudden change in how the world lives, works, stays entertained, and spends time at home has accelerated the streaming audio revolution. So what does that mean for brands? Right now, they're dealing with short-term challenges and long-term uncertainty about markets, consumer behavior, and what will the world look like months from now. Short-term marketing challenges, the change in consumer behavior, less exposure due to ads to physical distancing, which is why so many advertisers are pulling out of cinema, out of home, experiential, and to some point radio. There's ongoing market uncertainty, plus ad production is stalled. And the long-term marketing challenges, the very nature of media consumption is changing. People are moving away from linear broadcast and embracing the on-demand personalization. This trend has been taking shape for years. Now we can expect that it's here to stay. What that means for brands and advertisers, they need to create for where their audiences are and will continue to spend most of their time. A quote from our founder, Daniel Ek, from April this year. Everything linear dies and on-demand wins. Radio, print, even outdoor is being digitized. And TV has shifted to on-demand. This plays to being where people are and how they want to consume. If you saw our Q2 earnings report released last week, our monthly active users or listening audience is at 299 million globally. That is 29% up year on year, with a 31% growth in ad-supported users year on year. And even though on the surface, this might seem tied back to COVID-19, It's actually been a long time in the making. Audio's role in people's lives is more pronounced than ever. As people around the world shelter in place and practice physical distancing to stay safe, their daily routines have been turned completely upside down. On Spotify, we've seen people turn to music, to podcasts, to stay informed, to stay connected, and to stay grounded. And we see three major factors contributing to this growth: connected devices, an abundance of audio content that's constantly growing, and an increase in listening across at-home moments. That's 9.9 million Australians and 1.35 million New Zealanders streaming monthly up to 2.5 hours every single day. Naturally, we've seen some dips across in-car, wearable, and web listening. But in the first quarter of this year, we saw an increase in listening across connected TVs and gaming consoles. Connected device usage generally is up more than 40% among ad-supported users globally, and that mirrors the local. All this listening coincides with an explosion of music and podcasts. And growth is also attributed to content. Now with over 63 million Spotifyers globally listening to podcasts. Recently, we announced that we passed 1.5 million mark in podcast titles on our platform. And after making some adjustments as a result of the pandemic, consumption in Q1, we have returned to normal consumption levels now in Q2 and 3. Podcast consumption continues to grow by triple digits, and 21% of our monthly audience are now listening to podcasts. Our recent podcast announcements, including Joe Rogan, the Kardashians, the former First Lady Michelle Obama, and from Spotify Studios, search engine Sex, and not to mention Marvel Comics and the like. And music, of course, is just as important as ever right now. With 60 million tracks and top artists still releasing new music like the internet-breaking remix of Savage featuring Beyoncé, millions of people around the world are still streaming their favorite tracks, artists, and genres. Meanwhile, we're also seeing people's listening habits shift. Like recent increases in streaming across kids, family content, especially music to help the kids sleep. Spotify listeners are also adding more chill songs to their playlists, meaning they're more acoustic, less danceable, and have lower energy than songs previously added. Plus, the music tends to be more instrumental, featuring instruments rather than vocals. Go figure. Listeners are also getting nostalgic. With all the uncertainties of our current climate, music from decades past is striking a particularly strong chord. In April this year, we saw a 54% increase in listeners making nostalgic-themed playlists, as well as an uptick in listening to music from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. 50s music listening had increased the most. And more recently, playlists created to support Black Lives Matter and clearly the live gig shift. Audio acts as a companion, enhancing moments throughout the day. Unlike other media, audio adds more to whatever you're doing. It allows you to be present and stay connected to the world around you, while making that moment even richer. Right now, at home, moments matter more than ever. That's why we're seeing the biggest listening increases across cleaning, housework, cooking, exercise, work, school. Audio enhances those times. Whether you're blasting the new Megan Thee Stallion Beyoncé remix while vacuuming, or catching up with the daily over breakfast prep for the kids. All of this engagement across unique context is huge for marketers. But so far, these moments have been unaddressable. Now, brands have a wealth of opportunities to make authentic, relevant connections right when people are paying attention the most. Audio is that utility that follows you throughout the day. On Spotify, we've built tools to help brands make an impact with millions of listeners who soundtrack their day with music and podcasts across all kinds of moments, moods, devices, and a lot more. So how can you get started? The streaming audio revolution is here, and it remains a huge untapped wealth of creative possibilities for brands. At Spotify, we've built and are continuing to build audio solutions that make your brand heard and loved. What this means for brands now and in the future? Let's have a look at 4 key considerations. Starting with ways to reach listeners in context as they spend time at home, and as I said, more than 2.5 hours of streaming every single day, one-to-one. Audio is everywhere. Audio is Spotify's flagship offering, giving you the ability to reach users during highly intimate and engaged listening sessions. Mobile and desktop audio are in-stream audio units that play during an active listening session. And you can reach them across any device, in any environment, during any moment of the day. With Spotify, our audience can stream from over 300 devices. Our product ubiquity also reaches to the home. Everyone's at home, but not everyone's doing the same thing. Reach all kinds of listeners based on their interests and behaviour, tailored to activities in and around the home. I know when I'm cooking a meal with my wife at home, we have to have the right soundtrack in the background, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Playlist targeting gets your brand in front of the listeners during an intimate moment at home or about. This also unlocks all kinds of creative opportunity to create ads that are relevant to the activity at hand. Another way to get started, use Spotify's self-serve audio tool. Ad Studio is Spotify's self-serve advertising platform that makes it easy for anyone to create and manage audio ad campaigns on Spotify directly. In fact, the average amount of time needed to create an Ad Studio ad is less than 4 hours, and you don't have to do it all yourself. A creative production software like VoiceOver for automating your ad's voiceover makes it easy to bring your ad to life. So why did we build Ad Studio? First, to create a self-serve platform that enables businesses of all sizes to reach Spotify's highly engaged audience of young, influential streamers at a low entry point. Secondly, give advertisers simple tools to create high-quality audio ads if they've never made one before. We're continuously iterating on Ad Studio to respond to the changes in the industry, consumer listening trends, and what we're hearing from marketers. So, test and learn in real time. Speaking of real time, being able to adjust and measure your campaign success quickly is more important now than ever because of the moving market uncertainty. We of course recommend you prioritise buying channels that allow you the most amount of flexibility. Whether you need to switch out your creative or lower your campaign frequency cap, Spotify's automated buying offerings from Ad Studio to programmatic allow brands to have maximum control over the campaign and to be able to make adjustments quickly and efficiently in a matter of hours or days. Before we welcome today's panelists, I wanted to talk to our last point, the future of audio with Spotify. We're working on 2 new offerings to help brands lean into 2 of the biggest audio trends: voice-activated ads and podcast ads. And speaking of interactivity, but back to those screenless moments, more than 34% of the global online audience is using voice search on mobile right now. That is why Spotify is investing in voice-enabled ads. We're still experimenting, but we believe that voice-enabled ads will be able to amplify audio engagement. Our theory is that by removing friction and creating more opportunities for interaction, this new ad format will drive hard results for brands. For example, an ad An audio ad could prompt you to say a voice command that translates into an action, like play now or learn more. So far in testing, we're seeing increased engagement with voice-enabled ads compared to standard audio ads. But stay tuned, we're just getting started there. Next is one of the opportunities we're the most excited about. Ways for brands to reach both free and premium subscribers where they spend a lot of time listening. Podcasts. What used to be a niche medium is now clearly officially mainstream, especially lately with the podcast creation reaching an all-time high. And that's put us in this position to have a really robust offering with 4 best-in-class studios creating amazing content. Our Spotify Studios team is producing podcast content both in-house and in collaboration with unique partners to deliver truly differentiated content that we know Spotify listeners want to hear. And Gimlet, Parcast and The Ringer are helping us create more high-quality content than ever before. At this year's CES, we introduced Streaming Ad Insertion, SAR, a new podcast ad technology that powers Spotify podcast ads. Spotify's podcast ads offer the intimacy and quality of traditional podcast ads with the precision and transparency of modern-day digital marketing. SAR, as I say, leverages streaming to deliver Spotify's full digital suite of planning, reporting, measurement capabilities, all back to the marketer, solving previously unsolvable challenges in podcast advertising. Currently, the market sees stitched in ads, but that is not measurable. It can impact your brand safe environment. You're not sure what content your ad is running against. And with no insight into ad delivery and no guarantee that they've acted it on the ad. That is why we are testing. Now, next on our playlist, hearing from our panelists today. Please welcome Spotify Australia's creative producer, podcasts, Leah Harris.
Hi, Peter.
Hello, Leah. Fantastic that you're here.
Thank you.
Leah is a podcast producer at Spotify and is responsible for the development of original podcast content for Spotify in Australia and New Zealand. Earlier this year, Leah led the development and execution of Search Engine 6, the first original for our streaming service in this region. And joining us from his home state, New York, is Lee Brown, VP, Global Head of Advertising Sales. Lee, hope you're weathering the storm okay. Glad at least we've got you on your mobile.
Thank you, Peter, and I'm so sorry. I'm in the dark in my office with no power and no electricity then, but I'm happy to be joining.
Lee, fantastic. As you say, I appreciate you coming on board, even in those conditions. Lee joined Spotify from May in 2019, oversees more than 500 employees in 79 global markets across all direct sales, programmatic, partner channels, self-serve, and ad operations. In his role, Lee utilizes global advertising trends to ensure that audio and culture are at the forefront of all Spotify's advertising strategies and working for all business of all size. So as I mentioned earlier, with over 299 million active users, Spotify's ad revenue plays a formidable role in fueling the engine of the company's popular free experience globally. Welcome, Leah. Welcome, Lee. Great to have you both here today.
Thank you.
Leah, if I can start with you. Number one, thank you very much for physical distancing. Really appreciate it. We've seen substantial growth in podcasts from a creator's perspective.
Yep.
Has this surprised you? And can you give us a little bit more insights to the content strategy for podcasts in Australia and New Zealand?
Yeah, good question. It hasn't surprised me, Peter. I mean, podcasting is becoming mainstream as more and more people are finding what I call their first sticky show. So that might be something true crime, a well-known network or publisher, or an influencer or a comedian-based podcast. Mine personally was Serial, like many others, and Phoebe's Fall in Australia. But then they're coming onto the platform, they're experiencing content that is curated by humans, such as playlists, featured episodes, recommendations on their home screen, which helps audience to find more of the content that they love, including those really big hero shows that we all know, as well as independent and niche content. This feeds directly into our overarching content strategy. So we're looking in Australia at how we can attract non-podcast audiences and music audiences with that sticky content. So we're using homegrown talent with big audiences across a range of segments and interests. But we'll do this alongside our on-platform tools, which service audiences that the content speaks to them, as well as working with content partners and creators to get their content onto the platform and into the ears of our many millions of audiences.
A lot going on there.
Yes.
Lee, if I could throw to you, 2020 has been a year of highs and lows, from bushfires, Black Lives Matter movement globally, COVID, new anthems for the World Cup. How does Spotify platform allow brands to be part of the cultural shifts and allow to key moments or to key content, and also adapt to these rapid changes and needs?
Yeah, thank you, Peter, for asking. And again, apologies that I'm not there, and apologies that I'm not on video. But we believe that context matters now more than ever, and that brands must adapt to and be conscious of this cultural climate and remain authentic to their voice and purpose. Brands must also be aware of and relevant to the changing environments. For example, listeners are now more than ever turning to playlists and podcasts that focus in on being productive, staying positive, we all need that, and soundtracking their quality family time. We also continue to see more listening and more consumption on devices such as smart speakers, TVs, and gaming consoles. So what they're listening to has changed, and where they're listening to has changed, and brands need to be aware of and relevant to those changing environments. They also must be nimble to the consumer sentiment. And what I mean by nimble, they need to have an automation strategy that enables them to, take down and put up campaigns in real time, adjusting to consumer sentiment. They also need to be nimble with their creative and their messaging. In the span of 45 days, we saw creative messaging shifts from "we're all in this together" to Zoom memes to the new normal. What does the new normal look like? And so, I'll end with two examples from locally from within Australia. The first is from McDonald's, who adapted their McCafe campaign during isolation to reach people in the home during the mornings on connected home devices, because we could see that the shift in listening behavior across June had changed. Then in August, our data showed that in-car listening was moving back up as more people were on the roads. So McCafe adjusted their messaging and their targeting to reach people while they're in the car to encourage them to order coffee in the drive-thru. That's a great example of being nimble both on device as well as on creative. Commonwealth Bank of Australia is another great one, and they shifted their messaging early during the initial COVID wave to talk about their benefits finder, which enabled their customers to find benefits, rebates, and concessions. So those are ways, and some of our advice that we give to marketers about, remaining authentic to their purpose, being relevant and aware of the consumer the changing environments, and being nimble with their automation and their creative.
Thanks, Lee. Two fantastic examples, as you say, using data, insights, change of creative, and the ability what automation can do for brands to, I suppose, adjust. Leah, if I can put one to you, what innovative content formats might we see from Spotify and for the platform that will deliver for podcasts?
Well, I think, Peter, we're in a unique position with our platform to offer music and podcasts in the one place. And that gives users a personalised experience that I just don't think they can get anywhere else. So one example on that is we're developing on formats, so such as mixed media playlists like Your Daily Drive. So that combines your favourite music and timely news updates from select content partners. And then we're seeing this format evolve around the world into Your Daily Sport and Your Daily Wellness, which is pretty cool. The exciting thing for me on the content side is that we can marry up the developments from the product and platform side from the get-go, and then we can work to build out new innovative formats. So we're essentially getting like our creative to work alongside product innovation, and I think that's in a way that no one else can.
Super exciting.
Yeah, I nerd out on it.
Leah, I'm just going to come back to you. So many industries have been impacted over the past few months globally with COVID-19, such as travel, entertainment, live events, and clearly hospitality. Have you seen any key categories that have surprised you with their resilience? And what early trends are you seeing as we move into a new financial year?
Yeah, first, for our category, selfishly, audio streaming habits have definitely shifted during the pandemic, but Spotify's audience continues to grow and our consumption is on the rise, making us still a reliable place for marketers to reach audiences where they come to listen. A few other categories that have caught my attention globally. I've been really impressed with the retail and QSR category and how they have pivoted so quickly to ordering online and picking up curbside and change their, entire retail experience. We had a great example of that from Tesco in the UK, which ran a Think Before You Click campaign. It was a postcode targeted campaign with 2 messages in response to a surge in digital grocery orders. They focused in on recruiting new drivers and on encouraging people to head to their local stores. And I thought that was just a great example of, taking what the pandemic is offering and changing their messaging and, driving people to new ways of engaging with their brand and their stores and their products. Another category that I think has been incredibly resilient is, with governments across the world. Governments have been really active in health and safety messages. There's an example here in the U.S. around the Census Bureau who turned to us to reach young audiences as an alternative to in-person canvassing. So, it's incredible to see the resilience of a lot of these categories and how they're adapting to the new environment. And we're proud to be helping them with data and insights to drive their messaging.
Thanks, Lee. Definitely 2 fantastic examples that you've brought to the attention there. Leah, I'm going to come back to you. Do you have advice for brands wanting to get into the podcasting space? Do you think branded podcasts can work?
Oh, big question. I think it can work, but brands need to be really certain on who the audience is and really, truly why they are there to listen. So we have to get back to basics. We have to assess why people listen to podcasts. ABC did a really great report last year, so we can pull out the basics from that audiences listen to podcasts because they want to be entertained, they want to learn new things, and they want to stay informed. So if your brand isn't clear on who the audience is and how you're going to deliver on at least one of those points, then for me, I can't see the clear path to the success of the podcast. But this is where I would say, how can a brand align with an existing podcast and their loyal audience? For me, it takes a long time for a podcast or podcast talent to build their audience, and their audience puts so much trust into that intimate audio relationship. And that's something that I think a brand might spend too much time doing. So we have to look at the alternatives. We could tap into an audience trust with an existing title that already exists and work with that podcast to build out a successful campaign that gives the brand return on investment, but allows the podcaster to genuinely engage their audience, but with your brand. And that's what I think we'll aim to do with our original and exclusive titles that are coming through our studio, working with your team in Australia and New Zealand.
Well, certainly going to be looking to work very closely with you and the team. Some very sound advice, I think, for brands out there, and really looking to catapult the messaging forward and leverage, I suppose, already that trust and scale that's there. Lee, if I can come back to you, I've already touched on podcasts and SAI. What can you tell us about the trials of SAI? That is obviously streaming ad insertion in the USA and Germany. The product testing and potentially some of the results?
Yeah, sure. As you mentioned earlier about us launching SAI, streaming ad insertion, at the top of the year, I think it's worth double-clicking really quick into something you said. I want to go over it in a little bit more detail. The promise of SAI is to deliver on the intimacy and quality of traditional podcasts, while also bringing the precision and transparency of modern-day digital marketing. And what that means, we both said it now, what that means is that marketers now get, for the first time, they get access to seeing real ad impressions. They get access into audience insights that they never had before. They get creative performance, and they get more robust measurement. And I think bringing that, bringing that modern-day digital marketing lens to that traditional format, it's something that marketers have really embraced and has been a success so far in the marketplace. We have been beta testing SAI in the first half of the year in the U.S., and we just expanded our tests recently to Germany just a couple of months ago. And two quick early results to share with the team. First is from Puma. They were among our first partners to test SAI. They ran host-read ads in one of our Spotify originals, and the ads resulted in an ad recall lift by 180%. So we were extremely excited by that, as were they. Next was an example from LinkedIn in Germany, and they drove over 80% lift in ad recall. And so we're really excited about the innovations and the performance that SAI is bringing on the advertiser side. And now we're turning our attention to improving the consumer experience with podcast advertising, with SAI powering our next innovation, in-app offers. In-app offers allows podcast advertisers to resurface offers to listeners with a new visual ad experience. So now listeners can redeem offers in-app when the time is right for them. So often listeners were, scrambling to write down promotional codes, to write down offers, to remember to go back to that episode, to remember to go back to that pod within the episode. And now we're making it super easy for consumers that are listening to go back and, on a new surface, find that offer within that experience. And so, as I mentioned, we're super active in testing and learning with this. We know we're a global company, and our goal is to make SAI available to all advertisers worldwide in the long term.
Thanks for sharing some of those fantastic initial insights, Lee. We look forward to, obviously, sharing this market when the time is right and all the testing's done. Thanks for sharing. Now let's answer a couple of questions from our audience. David asks, what are Spotify's targeting capabilities? Would you like to take this one, Lee, please?
Yeah, so we offer the full suite of targeting capabilities from gender to demographic, mobile ID, and so we bring all of the modern day digital targeting capabilities to our full suite of ad products.
Thank you very much. Leah, a question from Elise. What is Spotify commissioning, and what are you looking for?
Oh, everyone loves to ask me this question. In 2020, we're really looking at always-on formats. So we want to be able to develop formats that continue going so that we can have lots of different ways for audiences to interact with content and keep coming back to the content. And I'm also looking for really uniquely Australian and New Zealand stories, voices, talent. We're in this awesome position here that we're commissioning for local with a global lens. So I get really, really excited about that. And then for the pitching side of things, in case there's other producers and creatives wanting to work with our team, I look for passion, I look for knowledge, but I also look for people that really want to know about Spotify and want to understand how we're working, because we're always iterating and innovating, as I said before. So I really want to work with talent and producers that really understand that.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Keanu. Thank you, Keanu. He's asking Lee, so I'm going to put it back to you. With smart devices, how will Spotify innovate user interaction? Will content adapt to asking questions or prompts?
That's for me, right, Peter?
Here's Lee. Thanks.
Yeah, good. It's hard to hear with Lee and Leah, so I apologize. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I think that is, a huge opportunity for innovation, and it's being driven by, it's being helped by the macro trends in the marketplace. If you look at the macro trends that are driving that, one is in just connected devices, especially for audio. When you look at the home with connected speakers, when you look at cars being connected, there's more and more opportunity for audio to be in relevant and in intimate moods and in spaces where we haven't been before, enabling marketers to access those moments like never before. Second is another macro trend that's driving that is actually user behavior. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old as well as a 10-year-old, and when they enter any room, they just ask questions to the air and expect answers to come back. And so with voice enablement and with voice commands, it's almost like that is the interface for AI and for answers. And so, I think those two trends in terms of, more connected devices across more homes, more cars on the road being connected, as well as the user behavior in terms of, being used and being trained. I think, the future of advertising could move from I can't believe we used to have to click on ads to I can't believe we used to have to swipe on ads to now I just speak and get the answers and get the offers and get the information that I want in the future. And that's something we're incredibly excited about.
Thanks, Lee. So those are as you said, those are those technologies and trends that you're seeing right now that really excite you.
Oh, definitely.
Lee, another question for you, please. Abby is really excited to hear about how COVID-19, also a lot of time at home, obviously, has changed listening behaviours at home. Lee Brown, for you.
Yeah, sure. I touched on it briefly in terms of what people are listening to. I think, we see users now turning more and more to, content, whether it's music or podcasts, that are focusing on being productive. So as they're doing home chores or they're out gardening or they're, working around the house and spending more time around the house. We also see them, trying to keep people positive and work on their mental health and well-being. So we see a lot of that content rising to the top, as well as sort of more quality, soundtracking for their family time, which leads to like more group listening. We've seen, more family-friendly playlists, more family-friendly content rising to the top. So we've seen some of that change in the content. Secondly, we've seen, a real, a continued rise in consumption across connected devices within the home. And so, with speakers that are around the home, especially on gaming consoles that are around the home. So those, not only what they're listening to, but where they're listening to it has changed and shifted certainly during this pandemic.
Thanks for that, Lee. Leah, coming across to you. David asks, every piece of content needs to connect with the audience. What makes your audience tick? What content do they see as valuable? Our audience, I suppose.
Yeah, nice one, David. I think there's two sides when I look at content. I look at the host and the relatable nature of that host. So, our audiences tick when they can really understand who that host is and they have the same values or they make them laugh. I think that really ticks. And then the second one is just excellent storytelling. We all have that kind of true crime or narrative podcast that we really love, and it's because that person is just telling that story that you cannot stop. And I think that also, that really ticks our audience as well.
Thanks, Leah. Thanks, everyone, for all your questions. Now to some final comments. Lee, I'll start with you if that's okay.
Sure.
Thanks, Lee.
Sorry, are you asking me for final comments too? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yes, I know it's just quite light. Yes, if you don't mind, Lee, just some of your final comments, please.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to say thank you for everybody showing up today, and we could not be more excited to bring the cultural insights that we have from our music business combined with the contextual insights that we have from our emerging podcast business to bring unparalleled reach and data to inform your creative messaging and engagement in the marketplace. And we just really appreciate your partnership, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Lee. And Leah, if I can come to you for your final kind of comments and final points that you would like to make?
I mean, I'm super excited and honoured, and it's such a privilege to be able to create original Australian, New Zealand content and then be able to work with clients and partners from your side of the business and be able to deliver for them alongside really great content.
Thank you. Thanks so much again for your time, Leah and Lee. Great talk on what our advertisers can expect from Spotify in the near future. Thank you very much to the both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Now what? I suppose audio will follow the same path as video. Listening is up like never before with tech innovation and giving people more ways to stream. Digital audio is an opportunity to reach people throughout the day across many devices, moments, and clearly content experiences. The tools are ready for brands to get started, and with even more on the way, as you heard. Stay tuned to hear more from Spotify. Please feel free to reach out to your Spotify contact or me directly should you have any further questions. Thanks, finally, to all our partners, and thanks for joining us here today. For those that have a couple more minutes, here are a few words from our VP, Head of Advertising, Jay Richmond, as he explains the evolution of audio and where it sits in comparison to video.
Hi everyone, I'm Jay. I lead Spotify's advertising business and technology platform. I spent my career at the intersection of digital media and ad tech, the last 7.5 years of which have been right here at Spotify. And so I'm going to give a brief talk today on audio, which I believe to be the next great marketing platform. And to foreshadow what I think will happen next in audio, I'm going to draw some comparisons to what just happened in video, starting with the evolution of the screen. A screen which began as analog tubes embedded in furniture which sat in our grandparents' living room, to paper-thin 4K displays that could be found taped to walls all across the world, to smart screens that have found their way into all of our devices, including our computers, our phones, tablets, watches, all of which are now connected to the internet. And all of this innovation has resulted in a dramatic rise in digital video consumption, which now makes up over 27% of all watch time in the US. And this is not just a US phenomenon. Across the world, digital video has provided viewers much improved, more personalized, on-demand experiences. And so while we've seen this boom in consumption, it took a while for video monetization to catch up. It required innovation in the ad space as well. Ads need to go from forced to skippable and personal, from broad delivery to narrow targeting, from being immeasurable to measurable. Today, digital video is 34% of video ad revenue, meaning not only has monetization caught up with consumption, it has surpassed as the ad innovations have proven to be that much more effective than traditional alternatives. And so the boom to digital video consumption on mobile devices has enabled platforms like a Facebook, like Snapchat, to begin iterating on video as a medium in itself. Video could suddenly do more than brand awareness. Now video drives app downloads, increases lead generation, and even provides e-commerce directly in the format. These services have taken rich advantage of smart screens, widespread broadband, to deliver new experiences that break from these traditional conventions, like linear programming, broadcasting, and appointment viewing. So what's quickly followed is this industry-wide investment in tools and resources that help brands quickly and easily create beautiful and effective video native assets. This transformation did not happen, as I mentioned, overnight. Screens needed to evolve. They needed to evolve from analog to digital transmission, from furniture that sat in our grandparents' living room to mobile, and from having no connectivity to widespread broadband. In summary, this transformation required digital screens to become connected and ubiquitous as preconditions for streaming to flourish, first with consumers, followed by advertisers, which offers us a good blueprint for what is happening now with audio. As digital audio infrastructure matures, we are seeing consumption rise and advertisers starting to follow, the pace of which has greatly accelerated, thanks to some of the largest, best capitalized companies in the world getting behind the movement, going beyond mobile and building out the rest of the audio infrastructure, in the home with connected speakers, on our bodies with wearables, and in other devices like gaming consoles, smart TVs, and cars. With each new device, new moments for streaming audio are introduced. The streaming audio revolution is now here. This year, digital audio will surpass radio listening in the US, and we're expecting similar trends in other markets all across the world. And now is the time to jump on board, as advertisers are quickly catching up to overall consumption, as Spotify drives innovation in streaming, digital audio, and monetization. As Daniel, our founder and CEO, famously said, long-term secular trends of everything linear dying in favor of on-demand experiences thriving is true. It's why we're so actively investing in our suite of audio creative tools, services, and resources that will make it easier than ever to build for our platform. And these shifts have all greatly accelerated since we started sheltering in place and forming new habits, which positions digital audio for an even quicker ascent than we had previously forecasted. So stay tuned, stay safe, and watch this space.